Alright guys, now that I got my kit car almost painted, I just got the hood to do. We want to start on to adding accessories to the car for the Night Rider stuff for the interior. What I'm going to do with my car is I'm going to add an extra battery, because a lot of the times when you build these cars, these Night Rider cars, you got to run a lot of electronics and switches and this and that to the car, from the car battery or into the hot source inside your car already. And a lot of times you can have hot wires that are on all the time and it drains your battery. So it's just better to run a second auxiliary battery in the trunk or somewhere where you can fit the battery in your car. So I'm going to be locating mine in the trunk because I don't really have any room inside under the hood to put a second battery under there. So I want to be adding it in the trunk. And the reason why I'm going with a relay isolator, because there's two different style isolators that you can choose. One is just an isolator without the relay, which is a big long board. It looks like a thick board with little heat sinks in it. That one you lose a little amperage, and that one it doesn't work as good on hot days. And I live in a very hot city in the summer, and these ones, the heat doesn't really get to it. And this brand is a Stinger. I'm not advertising for these guys, but that's just what I happen to buy, is a Stinger. I think this was about $40 or so. And this is a 200 amp isolator. It's a relay isolator, which means it's got like a switch inside it that triggers. So the way this is hooked up, it's real easy. You run one wire from your battery inside the car to one of these. It doesn't matter which side. And then the other wire that runs to your battery in the back of your car, wherever you put it, goes onto the other one, onto the hot. And then you have a ground. Either one of these can be ground. And then you have your switch. You usually want to hook that up to like a ignition or something that when you start the car is hot. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be hooking up one of these to a switch. Probably going to use maybe a ground switch on it instead of a hot switch. So I'll be using my ground, and I'll hook it up to a Night Rider switch in my car. So let's say I drain the battery in the back and you go to start your car, and when you start it, it's immediately going to try to drain the battery. The weak battery is going to try to drain your good battery up front, which is going to make it a little bit hard to start, because that battery, as soon as you turn it to the on position, is trying to suck your front battery and charge the back battery immediately. So what I'm going to do is hook it up to a switch. If I ever do drain the battery in the back, I hit the switch on the car, probably on the lower console on a rocker switch or something, or one of these switches, you know, the little lower console switches. Some of these are on-off switches, but I'm probably going to be just running the ground switch to it. So like I have these red ones here. You can use a rocker one too. This one's actually on-off. See, it goes in, on, off. I'm going to hook up the hot from here and run it to the ignition source, or to run, it says on here, let me show you guys, 12 volt true ignition, does not lose power during start. Okay, so if you wanted to do it without using a switch, you can run it to a true ignition. So, and that's supposed to keep it from losing power during start. So if I was to run this to just the ignition, that's gonna, when you have the key to the ignition, the first one, before you even start it, again, if your battery's dead back here, it's going to be sucking. It's going to try to take the juice from the front battery, your starting battery, to that back one. And so that's why they're saying you could either find the true ignition, which is something that only is powered on during the start. But again, I'm probably just going to run mine to a switch, a ground switch. I'll probably still run the ignition, true ignition, 12 volt true ignition. I'll probably still run it to my hot, but I'm still going to have that ground switch, just in case if I want to ever just shut that off completely and not use that battery, not charge it, and just want to keep this one charging and totally disconnect that, I can do that with the switch. So that's just how I'm going to hook it up. Okay, let's see what else we got. So that's called the Stinger. It's pretty easy. And another reason why I went with this is because look how small it is. It's real small. Most of the other ones are probably about the size of of this thing right here, this charger, or maybe a little bigger, which is kind of hard to find a place under the hood to mount it. And this thing is, I could fit it pretty much anywhere. And then let's see what else I bought. I bought some flex tubing to run wires. Any accessories that I got. Got some epoxy, marine epoxy. Bunch of little grommets, just in case you go through any metal places to run wires, you can put a grommet in there. Some more epoxy. I use epoxy quite a bit. Some heat shrinks, all different sizes. I'm also running, this is a fuse block, and this one was made for more of a marine situation, like boating and stuff, but I actually like it because it comes with a cover, and this one runs hot and power, so you can literally hook up your power and your ground on this. And these are my ground hookups, and these are all the hot. So this will run 12 hot accessories. You can run your scanner, you can run your Knight Rider lower console power, your upper console, even your dash if you want to. So any accessories that you put in your car can run right off this fuse blocks. And yeah, so that's a good one. This is, I bought it, I think, on Amazon. It's made by Blue Sea Systems. I think it was 40 bucks for that. And I got some zip ties. Let's see, I got some 2 gauge wire. I believe this is 2 gauge that I bought, which should be good enough. You could go 0 gauge, but I think 2 is quite a bit enough. And then, you know, it comes with these connectors. And I got some more wire. So this is marine grade 18 gauge. Two wires per inside, and it's got, you can see it's got protective layer inside it, and that's better than just using regular stuff, in my opinion. And that's 18 gauge, so that's whatever accessories I want to add to that, I can run that wire. Got some fuses. You're gonna need fuse holders and the actual fuses, which is, I think I got 200 amp. I might need to get some more fuses too. Yeah, this is 200 amps. This is going to run to the battery that runs in the back. And that's pretty much it. And then I got some more door hinge pins from my other car kits. So yeah, this is everything that I'm going to be needing for the hookup of the extra battery. And I will be doing a video on how to install this in the kit car within the next couple weeks. Probably not going to be doing it anytime soon because I'm still working on the paint, but I'm just prepping, getting everything ready for when I do it. And yeah, that's some of the stuff you'll need when you're hooking up your battery in the back of your car or wherever you're putting it. Alright guys, as you can see under the hood, there's not too many places to run one of those isolators that's not a relay one. Those things are pretty big in size, so I was going to buy one of those originally. Again, there's not too much places to put them. Somebody, Thomas, I believe, one of my friends on Facebook, told me he put his behind his slam panel, behind this piece, that it fit back there, but that's kind of a hassle. So I got the smaller unit, the relay type, and I think a good place to mount this is right up in here. I think this would be perfect for it, right in that location. See, it's nice and not too bulky. Doesn't look too bad to run it right there. And then I'll just have the cable, the hot, running up here, up on the side. It runs right into there. And then I'll be able to run the other hot to the battery from here. And there's actually a grommet that's right up under here that's got nothing in it. I think there was one in here somewhere. Because this is a formula. It doesn't, yeah, here it is. It's down in there where my finger is there. There's a grommet there. There's just no accessories. because this is a formula. It has basic hookups of electronical stuff that was from the factory. Now if you was to have a GTA Trans Am, those are a little more fancy, but for a Night Rider car you don't need a GTA. I would go with a formula. It's less wire in the car, less weight, and most of the electronics in the GTA, it's obsolete by now. The radio stuff, all that's going to be gutted out anyway. You're not going to need that stuff. So it's better to have less wires. That way when you run your Night Rider electronics, your scanner, your little marine speaker, you know, if you're running one of these things, a little speaker for your, what you would call it, I forgot what these are called, but right here, it's a little speaker thing for to speak on a loudspeaker. It's a loudspeaker pretty much. Sorry, couldn't think of the name of it. And all these things can be run off of your second battery. Again, you don't have to use your startup battery and drain that thing. So that's what I'm doing this time around, is I'm trying to run a dual battery because I don't want to get in my car every so often and have a dead battery on startup, and that's just a pain in the butt. I don't want to have to go through that again on another Night Rider car. And yeah, so that's it for now, guys. I got work to do. I'm going to be taking this bar off today, this crash bar, and I'm going to be installing my control unit or my driver for my scanner behind it, because I really don't want to mount it up here. I just don't trust it. A lot of rain and stuff will get on it. So I'm going to mount this down below where it's kind of protected. Kind of protects it from the elements. And if you're going through most scanners don't have these drivers. They have everything built into one little thing. So you won't have to do all this. But yeah, I'm going with a KRE. The guys in UK. Mike Underwood, he makes the scanner. That's what I'm going with on my car. The reason why I'm going with his is because he has more functions for sounds, and it has SD cards I can pull out and play with the sounds what I want for whatever event I'm going to. So yeah, I'll be doing that today. It's a hot day, but I'm gonna get it done. I just got to take all these bolts off to pull this thing out and configure this to mount inside the middle. And then I'll be mounting this loudspeaker right here, somewhere up in there as well. And just getting this thing ready so when I do put the bumper on, I don't have a bunch of hassle of having to take everything off again to install these things. So that's it for now. Also, I got a speaker here that I got to install too. That's going to go on the front, just right here. So I got to install this too. So I got 3 things to install, and yeah. So I'll be busy today working on that. Alright, right now I'm installing a PA. It's a PA and a Siren. And what I did was I marked from the top where I wanted to drill. Then I drilled the holes here. And then I will be installing this from underneath here and mounting it from this position underneath this bar. So I'll take a video in a minute when I mount this, and I'll show you guys how I did it. Alright, so I got my 4 screws there. Put them in, and you can see where it's mounted, right up under that slam bar. And that's a perfect spot because there's not a lot of room up under the hood. It's a good spot to put it if you're adding one of these. And your bumper will go on, you won't even see that it's there. And my speaker's going right here where I'm at. I'm showing you right there. My marine speaker will be right here on this bar pointing forward. Another tip for you is you might want to use a flat-headed screw, countersink the hole, and then paint the head black. So that's what I'm doing now, is countersinking the holes. So when this installs, it's nice and flush, just like that. This one I left undone. See how I didn't countersink that one? It's kind of sticking up in the air. It's kind of sloppy. Alright, just finished tightening down the bolts. And you can see those bolts are nice and flush now. And there you have it. There's the PA/Siren installed. Nice and concealed. Alright, so after thinking about this isolator, thinking about installing it here, I also have to put an inline fuse in here. And the one I got is kind of bulky. So if I do put the isolator here, I still have to run this here, and it's going to be kind of a little bit too much crap in this area. I'm probably not going to like the visual look of it. So I'm thinking instead of putting the isolator there, to saw it to the front bar here on the inside, right up in here. That way I won't see all the wiring and stuff. That way I can just run a wire to my hot over here to the isolator, and then I can run this other cable up the side here, and then I can mount this fuse here. I should have bought some inline fuses that weren't in a in a big box like this, just one that kind of goes in line with the cable, but it's alright. I might have to buy some new ones because I really don't like these. These are really big and bulky. But if I did use this one, I could mount it right here, and that wouldn't look too bad. And then I would just run my cable, which I have it ran back there to see how long it would be. Run it from here. Then I'd run it into the antenna hole where the grommet is in here, and then I'd run it down this down in here, and then up through the back. And then I gotta find out where I want to put the battery back here as well. I'd probably run the cable going across and probably put the battery over there on that side is what I'm thinking, because I have my spare tire here. Don't really want to remove that because this is going to be a car that I will be driving. It's not just going to be a show car. So I think I might have enough room for a battery in there. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking I can kind of probably fit one in over here, but I'm gonna have to modify some kind of tray, build a tray for it, weld one up or something, or buy one that's pre-made that I can get to fit in there. But that's the situation that I'm running into, is where to put the battery and all the wiring. It's kind of a pain in the butt because there's not too much space on this car for stuff. And if you want it to look pretty, you don't want it to look obvious and have wires all over the place. You gotta kind of think it out and think where you want everything to go. And I'm also using this flex tubing on everything because I don't want to see any of the cables running around without that flex tubing. The flex tubing, in my opinion, makes it look a lot neater just by putting that on there rather than having this red cable all over the place. Yeah, so I gotta put the flex tubing on all this stuff, and this is for the speaker, the Siren speaker, and this is for my scanner. I have to make the scanner cable a little longer. It's too short, can't reach it to the battery. I was told that this scanner needs to draw from the front battery, so I'm kind of like, I don't really want to run it from the front battery, because if it drains this battery, it can kill the battery where you can't start it. But I don't think I'm going to be able to run a big old long cable from here to the back of my trunk. According to the guy who made the scanner, he said you need to have the driver close to the battery. So I don't know what I'm going to do on that. That's another issue I'm running into. I might just have to plug it into the battery and just I guess just don't leave it on all the time, or run the risk of having a dead battery. And that's the whole point, putting two batteries in so I don't get a dead battery. So that's what I'm trying to avoid here. So it's kind of getting to the point where I'm like, is it even worth to put a second battery if I'm going to have issues like this pop up? So also, I did get the speaker installed there. Used a nice little L bracket there. It's a black one, aluminum. Both sides. Ran the cable up inside through that little hole there. Make it look nice and neat. It's only a 300 watt pile, a marine speaker. Nothing too big. Should be big enough though. Yeah, so that's ready, wired up. I got the spool here. I just got to measure out how much feet I need. Probably about, I don't know, 10-15 feet, just to be on the safe side. And then I'll run that, you know, into the car. One of the things that I dread on these cars is the wiring. I don't enjoy doing wiring just because you have to run it and then you have to make it look pretty. It's easy to run it and make noodles everywhere, but to make it look like factory is what is a pain in the butt, because if you just have wires like this running all over the car and you open up the hood and you got, you know, wires everywhere, it just doesn't look neat, doesn't look professional. So the hassle to me is getting those flex tubes and shoving all the wire in there and then running it to make it look pretty. Like you see, this is a factory. It's using flex tubing. Even on the little light bulbs, flex tubing. So if you do that, it just makes it look professional. So when you just have a wire running here like that, can you imagine? It just doesn't look good. You can see the side, they use flex tubing there. Pretty much on everything on this car, it's got the flex tubing on. So I'm gonna keep that style using flex tube on most of the wiring that I do to make it look just a little bit nicer.